Pro Football player Travis Kelce is pressed for time during the football season. So he does two things at once. Whether it's grilling while mowing.
Two things at once!
Or getting this season's updated COVID-19 shot at the same visit as his flu shot.
Two things at once.
You can be like Travis and ask your pharmacist about getting this season's COVID-19 shot at the same visit as your flu shot, if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Thank you for tuning in today. You are now listening to That Will Never Work podcast with your host, Maurice Chisholm.
Yes, it is your host, Maurice. Hey, y'all. I heard something that was very, very powerful this past week, and I want to see how you feel about the same thing. The phrase was, or the motivational moment was, it's not the water that's around the ship that sinks it, it's the water that's in it that does. I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't it in totality. Again, if you had seen it on Instagram, you would know what I'm talking about. So think about that for a second. It's not the water that's around the ship that sinks it, right? That's how the water that's how the boat travels. It travels via the water. You know, that's his job, to get you from point A to point B. And sometimes point A is deep in the middle of the water, and which I don't understand, right? But that's what some people do. They take the boat out and just sit out there in the water chilling, right? Point B, that's your point B, I guess, and then take you back home. Now, for those individuals that live on the water, you understand the importance of keeping the water out of the boat. Now, there are a number of ways that the water can get in the boat, whether it's a high tide, low tide situations. It can be a storm. It can be a hole in the hull. So I give you a few different things, but I'm going to stick towards the hole or the storm. So when you think about it from a storm perspective, a lot of times we don't understand what is the storm and what's keeping us from achieving our goals. Sometimes a storm is our best friend, and their information that they're feeding us is constantly beating us down, right? It's constantly getting to us, and we don't understand that this information is way too much and it's holding us down. It stops us from moving forward. So now that you are receiving this information, and sometimes the information, and I tell my wife all the time, sometimes, gossip is fun. Let's be honest. Sometimes that adversity, because sometimes our lives can seem so mundane and so blasé or whatever else that, you don't know what to do. And sometimes the gossip, that's why reality TV is so good, because it creates some type of friction. And a lot of times that friction, disagreements or whatever it is, that's why war is all the time. It's the adversity, right? And then you overcome the adversity, whatever it is. So many different parts to gossip and hearing that juicy information, and then next thing you know, you get it now, things kind of blow up, or you start to see how that information affects you. You get that juicy information about someone who may be dating someone at the job. Yeah, that sounds juicy, right? But then you don't know the backstory when, someone is actually married or in a relationship or whatever the situation is, and then it all falls apart. How good is that information? And most importantly, in some cases, sometimes that information that based off of your relationship to that information that's given to you can wear you down. And now you don't know what to do and how to go and how to move, because that information is way too heavy. And you don't know what to do with it moving forward. So I'll give you another example, which is when people are saying, hey, you know what? The job is not, doing any more promotion or promoting from within. They're only getting people to put in these positions from without. And now you're like, wow, what am I going to do? I was looking forward to taking, Susan's job or Johnny's job when they leave, because they just put in their resignation, and now I'm ready to go and move up. Well, how do you get over that hump? Because everyone can't speak for themselves, and a lot of times people are going to say, shh, don't tell nobody. Don't tell anybody that I told you this, right? You'll hear that a lot. So now what are you supposed to do with that information? How are you supposed to move forward? How are you supposed to get that water out of your boat, out of your system? Get that information out of your system. What are you supposed to do with that? Now, when I talk about the hole that's in, each and every one of us have a hole somewhere, right? And the question is, how do you plug that hole? How do you take that hole and plug it up so the water don't seep in and sink you, right? That information or that storm, it can, depending on the storm, of course, and the size of waves and things like that, it might take you a little longer time to be sunk. It can, right? But if there's a hole, and depending on where the hole is, and again, how the waves are moving and shaking, you having that hole, it can take you down a little quicker. So how do you find ways to either get the water out during a storm, or how do you plug the hole? And it could be calm, because sometimes you don't even know you have a hole, right? Everything could be calm, and the next thing you know, you're like, well, why am I sinking? Because you have a hole somewhere. You're not as put together as you think. And that can be holding you back also. So as we are looking forward to becoming a better version of ourselves, let's look at what our weaknesses are. How are we being overrun? How are we being taken apart by information, by the news, by anything that's bringing down our countenance, and not allowing us to flourish where we need to be? I challenge all of us to look at ourselves in the mirror and be honest. Now, let's not be honest to the point where we are bashing ourselves and we can't move, right? Unless you feel like you can handle that. But let's be honest with ourselves to the point of, hey, you know what? This is our flaw. How do we fix this one flaw without looking at every single flaw, every single issue? Understand what the holes are, and how to fortify that hole so that way no more water can penetrate where we are to sink what we have going on. It looks like inflation. It looks like food shortages. It looks like product shortages. It looks like people that are in our lane. These are situations that as we're trying to move forward, whether it is trying to be an entrepreneur. And if you listen to a couple episodes ago where I talked about the hot dog stands mentality, or whether it is someone else has the job or don't have the job, and whatever the situation is, how do we make sure that we are tight enough to overcome all these situations and these obstacles? I challenge each and every one of you today to make that decision, how to get this water. Because even after the storm, even after you having a hole and you patch the hole, you still got to find a way to get that water out your boat. So I challenge you today, how to get the water out of your boat.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Attention car shoppers. Right now at South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can get a new or used auto loan and pay nothing until 2024. And no payments for 90 days means nothing out of pocket going into the new year. Plus, we have flexible rates and terms, so you could make the best financial choice for you. Learn more at scfederal.org/auto loans. That's scfederal.org/auto loans. Certain restrictions apply. Existing South Carolina federal credit loans are excluded.